Welcome to another Mingle Mastermind. Thank you to our panelists and thank you to everybody who's attending today. This topic, what does sustainability mean to you, is something that was actually a previous panelist brought up that topic, and I thought, that's such a good idea because we know so many people in the fashion industry that are doing so many different things in sustainability in so many different ways. I wanted to showcase the people that we have on the panel today to share the cool things that they're doing in their business to support sustainable fashion. So welcome to our panelists. I really appreciate you giving us your time to share with us what you're doing in the fashion industry. So, okay, so first off, I'll just go through the list, and if you will introduce yourself. We have Almarina. Almarina's been in the apparel industry for over 30 years. Tell us a little bit about your career.
I navigated through merchandising, product development, sourcing, and most recently product integrity, which gave me a way more technical information to advocate for sustainable practices, etc. I use every single aspect of my background in merchandising, first of all, sourcing, to think about how can I help anybody, and first of all, companies to be more sustainable, be more conscious about what we are doing with the environment, etc.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us today. We're so appreciative to have you. Our second guest is Heather from Zumba, and Heather is actually in Africa right now. Thank you for joining us from so far away. Oh, and Heather is frozen for the moment. Okay. Oh, Heather, are you coming back? Heather, we're having a little bit of trouble.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, are you back? Okay.
Oh no. You see me?
Yep. Okay, yeah, we've got you.
Do you see me now?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah, my connection might not be the best connection here. Yeah, so just a quick introduction. My company's name is Zumba, and it's just we're trying to figure out how to do fashion without harming anything. And we're based in West Africa, in Burkina Faso, where I am right now. So using as much as possible the local resources and local people, and trying to figure out the methods that are the least harmful to everyone involved, and you know, from start to finish. And we really do everything here. The cotton is grown here, it's spun, it's dyed, it's woven, sewn, everything happens right in one place. So that's
and you should definitely check out Zumba's website. I mean, the clothing that you guys make it looks so beautiful and comfortable with lots of really great patterns and prints. So I always enjoy watching what Zumba's producing.
And we do our own clothing, but we also supply other designers with fabric. And some of them are far away, some of them are right in the West African region.
That's great. That'll be a wonderful thing we want to talk about when we talk about the supply chain. Angelique, lead instructor of Custom Collaborative, which is such a fantastic business and nonprofit that you guys are doing. Tell us about Custom Collaborative, Angelique.
So, hi, everybody. Custom Collaborative is a nonprofit organization where we teach low-income and immigrant women the skills of fashion designing, and we emphasize sustainability along with that. So we are continuing to educate the women on how to create and be self-sustained with the skills of fashion designing and sewing. There's a big emphasis now moving forward with alterations to help in that sustainability model.
Wonderful. It's a beautiful thing that you guys are doing to help immigrant women and providing this production resource right in New York. So thank you so much for joining us. Fernanda, So happy to have you on. You have a very wonderful business where you're using upcycled leather to create different products. Tell us about your company.
Yes, I was a consultant for the leather goods industry in Brazil for over 20 years. And yeah, moving to US, I have to come up with something. And like a brand we were thinking about for us, but just I just don't want it to do like one more, like just a bag, so I started buying leftovers from manufacturers in Brazil. So we do upcycling by using waste material and at the same time as while creating income source for women in social vulnerability, such like refugees from Haiti living in South Brazil. So they work from home while taking care of their families. Everything is made by hand. So yes, that's all. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's just beautiful. That social impact businesses are so important, and we really thank you for providing that opportunity for women in those situations. We've got Anthony Lilore from Throw. How are you, Anthony? Anthony's in his production facility right there. You can see from the background.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for but got to wear it today. Thanks for allowing a Y chromosome.
We are usually low on the Y chromosome. It is true.
We always need a token chromosome.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm happy to be that. Yeah, my background is design, product development, production. And I do so mostly in and around the New York metro area. For the past 15 or 20 years, I've been concentrating on sustainability in one way or another. Most recently the website is throw.nyc. So most recently, the stuff that we've been doing is upcycling vinyl from trade shows. So any of these big trade shows you see at the Javits Center or big convention centers, we take the banners from the ceiling, turn them into bags and accessories, and then sell them back to the event or the event space or things like that. So we've been pretty successful with that until it went Thelma and Louise in March, and so we pivoted and we've been making masks. So we've been doing a lot of these, and most recently for Fashion Mingle, we did this very style in a beautiful print. Didn't happen to grab it today, but so that's my intro. I also happen to know some of the people here. Hillary, you and I have a connection as well. So, and Catherine, everybody else, hello. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'll go in and out of mute just so you don't hear factory sounds.
Well, I can attest to the beautiful designs that Anthony's company has created with the Throw bags. It just amazes me some of the beautiful prints that they've been able to come up with. But then also they did our branded mask for Times Square Fashion Week, and I have to say it was the most comfortable mask that I've worn to date. Anthony personally designed it. He's a professional fashion designer, so I mean it just fits fantastic. And so his company is perfect if you need a large number of masks printed for, you know, a branded opportunity or something. Anthony's company Throw NYC is perfect partner for that. We also have Runa Ray, who's a fashion designer and a New York Fashion Week veteran who has several sustainable fashion businesses. Thank you, Runa, for joining us.
Thank you, Melissa. Always great to be a part of this panel. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Runa Ray. I'm a fashion environmentalist, and I work with a lot of the SDG goals of the United Nations. So as a designer, I use design as the pinnacle for sustainable fashion. And I try to revive ancient indigenous techniques that could be used in modern day production. So that's in a nutshell with what I do.
Very, very beautiful work. Really lovely design, and something, she's always doing something very creative. And we also have Hillary, who is a government affairs consultant and also the founder of Politically in Fashion. Hello, Hillary. Thank you for joining us again.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me again. Great to see some familiar faces on here and meet some new people. I look forward to learning more about your business. As Melissa said, I'm a government affairs consultant. I'm based in Washington, D.C., but I'm also the founder of Politically in Fashion, which is an online community for all those in the fashion industry, whether it be as designers or models, lawyers, reporters, or just fashionistas, to engage more on legislative and regulatory issues that are important to our industry.
Fabulous. Always so thankful to have your insight in that area. And we also have Catherine Schuller, who is in New York City and very, very active with the UN as well, and very active in sustainability and diversity issues.
Yeah, I got cut my teeth, so to speak, in the 80s when I was one of the first plus size models, and it was just beginning, and I realized that diversity was really what it was about. Equality was really what it was about, choice, and inclusivity. So I just stuck with that message, and everything I didn't throw the baby out with the bath, just add to the bath water, teach the baby to swim. That's what I say. So I just kept adding to that pot, and you know, it became it became clear to me that I need to do for Mother Nature what I did for the plus size woman. So that's kind of my mission now, and to educate people who are lay people like myself who don't really understand sustainability. I mean, the first time I heard it was a park in Portland, Oregon, and you know, it was like, sustainability, what's that? You know, it just riveted it was like a light bulb went off, and I really think that that's going to be the remaining area of my career is going to be focused on that. And I did join the NGO the subcommittee out of the UN on the Sustainable Development Goals, and we are now actively doing the Impact Awards. So the Sustainable Development Goals Impact Awards. So we are going to go to businesses, projects, platforms, products, services, and tell them to submit themselves, and we're going to have a big festival next year, and I'm working with a band called World Town Sound System on doing a song for each one of the goals. So we're going to actually have an album because I think that music and the arts and all of those disciplines really elevate the message, and that's what we're trying to do, is move people to understand. I took the climate leadership training with Al Gore over the summer, and I'm a trainer now. I'm a leader. So I have to do these presentations. I have to educate other people and about sustainability and what it means. So these kind of panels are awesome, and to meet everyone. These are kind of a lot of people I don't know. Hi, Fernanda. We're all members of the New York City Fair Trade Coalition, so it doesn't get more equality than that. Yeah, Fernanda and Angelique, the collaborative, and Runa. So you know, it's just, you know, I join, I network, and there's purpose now and passion in what I'm doing. There always was, but it's definitely more focused now.
Well, Catherine's definitely one of the best networkers in New York City. So if
my hobby,
if you need to know. If you need to know someone, chances are Catherine can
I got the golden Rolodex.
Absolutely. And then finally, we've got Sharon, who's our resident fashion and business attorney, who's also an expert in B Corps, which is something that's going to be super helpful. You work with a lot of clients that are in the sustainability and social impact areas, and you help them set up their company to take advantage of things like B Corps and those tax advantages as well.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, and hello, everyone. First of all, I'm so thankful and grateful to be amongst all of you today, because it's, you know, this is such an important topic, and I'm so happy and eager to listen to all the great ideas and practices that you all have. And yes, my way of supporting those missions is, through the legal, through legally helping these businesses create the solid foundation and explore ways to, receive funding and support for these missions, as B corporations and other forms of funding, and supporting these types of businesses, because really this is the future. And growing up, I was all about the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and I really held on to that. Even as I have my own firm, it's a virtual practice. There's no paper trail. We try to be as sustainable as possible as well. So I'm really thankful and looking forward to hearing all of this. And yes, my goal is to support all of these companies and these sustainable practices.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sharon. You're always so helpful. Brands and especially new companies really have to think about how to set up their company legally in the best way right at the beginning. And so we really are grateful to have you on every week, advising our panelists and attendees. So let's get started with what we're going to be talking about today. The fashion industry creates 10% of the world's carbon emissions. We see, there's been so many documentaries on it and articles on the impact the fashion industry, and especially fast fashion, has on our water sources, polluting rivers with the chemical dyes, and, and all of the, of course, there are labor practices. There's so many different things. And we, as members of the fashion community, that's what's wonderful about this panel, is that you're all taking responsibility for doing the right thing with your business and helping others learn how to do a more sustainable approach to creating something. Everybody needs clothes, so we have to have the fashion industry, but what we're here to do is to learn how to produce clothing in a more sustainable fashion and reduce the reliance on fast fashion. And one of the things that I was really surprised to learn several years ago was just how complicated the supply chain is, and how difficult it is to actually have transparency in the supply chain, so that you, as a designer, can actually know that the products you're designing with actually come from a sustainable business practice. Runa, I want to go to you first, because I know that you, with the different types of businesses that you've had, that you still have, you use small, like your Mojo jacket business is based on taking unused leftover fabrics and creating beautiful jackets with it that you have a distribution channel for. But then you also get to the real core of how to create new collections with environmentally friendly dyes, vegetable or plant-based dyes. And then also the fabric you use actually disintegrates into the soil. So you're probably one of the purest people I know, me personally, in how you produce. So tell us why you have to basically be so hands-on with this approach, because obviously it's very hard to have this type of these type of processes if you're going out into regular supply chains.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. It's definitely a very important question. And as a designer, I have worked with several corporates, I've worked with a lot of factories, so I know what happens back end. For me, the reason I got into using a lot of surplus fabrics for my jackets was because the corporates that I came from, there was a lot of fabrics that were programmed but never used. So they ended up in the go down, and it would probably stick around for like 10 years. Either they would get sold to the small retailers or they would just stick around. The reason for overproducing so many prints was because of the complex corporate chain that exists in the organization, where it comes from, it goes from the designer to the product team, and then it's either approved or it's not approved, then it goes to the factory. If there's a small change in print, the whole thing is like discarded, then you go ahead with a new one. So that definitely was something which really blew my mind. And I was like, I mean, why can't we use what we actually have? When I started my own organization, and that was when I met you in 2016 at the Fashion Week, when I launched my origami collection, where I tried to do like zero stitch clothes, which try to offset the carbon footprint of machines and try to kind of make it really minimal. I also started experimenting with chlorophyll prints, which you're also very familiar with, because there was a lot of flower markets in India, and you had a lot of these flowers which were being discarded because we come from a very religious community. So how do you extract the chlorophyll? This was something that I worked on, and then I realized that it could actually negate the use of digital prints that happen in the industry. So on and so forth, I started kind of experimenting as a designer with different ways of working. Then I got to understand you have certain organizations which are like GOTS approved, which talks like from the seed to production. And these organizations work with mostly organic cotton, because they use like the seed fertilizers, which are animal based, and not like the synthetic fertilizers, which are used by the other cotton. This experiment got me to work with these kind of fabrics and realize that it actually disintegrates pretty well in soil. That's when I worked towards the circularity in fashion, where I was like, why don't we start making products which are easy to recycle? Rather than making products that have like different components. You don't have to have a metal, a print, another patchwork. So at the end of the day, everything can be concisely recycled, and the more simple it is, the easier it would be. So those are the kind of practices I started employing in my design process. And I think it's something that is going to be ongoing, and, it's just going to probably get better with time. And educating people on the choices that they make is also very, very important ordeal for us designers and factory owners, because we are responsible for the transparency that we give the consumers at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I love just how much effort you've put into researching, experimenting with these types of techniques. And I think that is, really is what it's going to take to educate people that, this is possible. Almarina, I know that, as a consultant, you really are helping your clients learn how to use less virgin resources and also have more transparency in the supply chain. Give us some examples of some of the big challenges that you're trying to solve and make smoother for designers. Oh, you're on mute still.
One of the big challenges is definitely in the materials, and how we can educate more designers, just like a run, to use from the beginning of the design, use materials that is going to be able to use the circularity and produce less recycling, even recycling. I most recently been involved in a company that's been 10 years old now, Loopedworks. And Loopedworks does upcycling. And one of the things I learned is how important it is to, through upcycling, the companies who are producing the products understands what's going to happen with leftovers or excess. So if they understand how much excess they are producing, they probably can help to understand how they can be, at the very beginning of the process, much more thinking about circularity. So one of the success of Loopedworks is, they are 10 years old now. By the way, I'm in Portland, So definitely is a paradise for sustainability. We have large corporations here, Nike, Columbia Sportswear, King Footwear, all involved in large corporations type of initiatives, which is very important to the overall business as well. But Loopedworks, for example, one of the best success plans, they are doing now one collection, and the collection is, which I was just looking at their collection, is the Sensi Graves, and they are doing kiteboard type of access and doing bags and all sorts of materials. And they are collaborating with REI and the producer as well. So I use whatever I can see what the status quo to map out how we can help upstream and downstream. Because like Catherine is saying, is we are all in the same boat trying to figure out, like, we don't have a reset button to say, we're going to start today. We are in the middle of everything, and we need to understand how we can address things upstream and address things downstream. That's my focus.
That's wonderful. And Heather, I know organic cotton is something that you specialize in, and the upstream and downstream part of that process is really important. Tell us about how you ended up in Africa, running your business in Africa, and how that is an important part of your solution for the supply chain.
Well, when I started thinking about making fashion harmlessly, I thought I would just get some fabric, that was already adhering to the standards that I would want it to adhere to. And 15 years ago, it was pretty hard to find a lot. And I must say, I'm kind of a sucker for loud, bright colors, and everything was oatmeal colored. So I thought, I'm gonna have to make the fabric well. And and I thought, this is going to be quite an involved project. So I better figure out where I would like to spend a lot of time, because it's going to take time. And I've always had a kind of an attraction to West Africa, and my husband is also works with a lot of West African musicians. He's a musician. So we did a tour in 2009 throughout the whole region, from Senegal all the way to Benin, across the whole region. And really the resource that is here in in an accessible way is cotton. It's big cotton producing for where I am now, Burkina Faso. Now gold has surpassed it, but that's just because of the value of gold. But the biggest, volume export of this country is cotton. And they started organic cotton, I believe it was in 2005. It was put in place by an NGO called Helvetas, and it's less than 1% of the production of cotton here. And it hasn't moved since I've come here. So I've been here for 10 years, and it's still just less than 1% of the production of the whole, all of the cotton. And I think it's because it's very, it's a rebel, and it's a lot of systematic systems don't want to be disturbed too much. So it's like, we'll keep it at 1%. But it's 20% of the population here work in cotton, and transitioning to a healthier form of life, because conventional cotton is really terrible for mainly for the farmers, for their health, for their lives, the health of their livestock, for the health of their ecosystem. They become very much into monoculture, and so they don't eat well, they don't have enough food, food production. So it's really important to transition to something that will be healthier for everybody. And so organic cotton is kind of the step in that direction to, because I know within the sustainable world, cotton is kind of, it's not considered one of the most sustainable materials. But for when you're working in a place where that's really the resource, we need to start where we are here and transition to organic cotton. And when I speak with organic cotton farmers, I mean, it's so clear that there's a huge difference between organic cotton and non-organic. The farmers are telling me about how in the 5 years they've transitioned, they see lizards come back and birds that they haven't seen for years. And, you know, it really does make a huge difference, not only for the environment, but also for their finances, because it's better paid. It's not to say it's perfect, but it's definitely a step in that direction. So that's why I'm, you know, really committed to using organic cotton, as well as transforming it here in West Africa, not just exporting it and using it somewhere else, because I also feel really committed to that people can get the most out of their own resources and the most value. And you know, it's not about helping Africa. It's about, you know, Africa helping itself, because everything is right here and can be used and transformed and made into something that really profits everybody. So
yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you really good.
Okay.
So I do want to follow up and ask about, you had mentioned that you actually do supply organic cotton to other companies, not just your own. Can you give us an idea of how much of the cotton that is in the, you know, in the supply chain for the clothes that we wear on a daily basis of it, like how much of it is organic?
Well, I know that the 1% that we have here is a world statistic. There's only 1% of cotton worldwide is organic, at least the last time I checked. But you know, I hope that will change. I hope there'll be like this time when everyone just like, it's like, you know, like some supermarkets don't have non-organic carrots because, you know, we don't need non-organic. Like, hopefully at one point everyone will be like, oh, let's just go organic, because but it does take it's not going to be possible, I think, to be completely organic cotton. I think we do need to diversify into other fibers as well, because cotton is, you know, it's a needy crop and it needs a lot of compost to be healthy. And that's not possible in all the places that are being used to grow cotton now. And it would be good to transition into other, you know, into hemp or other, you know, linen and all different other fibers, banana. But we don't have the infrastructure here for that at all. But we do have the cotton infrastructure that's been built up over the colonialist extractive systems of the past. And so we can use that to do the best we can while we're developing other resources.
So if a designer wanted to use organic cotton, would it be easy for them to find it, or is it still cost prohibitive for most designers?
Well, actually, it's no, it's not at all cost prohibitive. For me, it's a no-brainer. It only adds, well, for my process, it only adds about 3% more to the cost of making something. So, you know, it's fine.
That's great.
Because it's the first material, you know, it's not like it's everything else stays the same. The spinning, the weaving, the dyeing, all of that stays the same. It's just the initial material that is 30% more expensive in general than the regular cotton. But in the general picture of what you're doing, it's only only adds 3% to the total cost of the piece. So I think it's definitely an important investment to make. In terms of there being enough of it, I don't struggle with the problem of not having the organic cotton here. What is a struggle is actually putting in place the system of being able to use it here. And the first step in that process is making it into a yarn that we can use to weave. And that's an industrial process. I mean, obviously we could use hand spun yarn, but that would be extremely luxury niche product because it's very time consuming. And in the West Africa, it's always been set up with this very centralized colonialist system where there's only one spinning mill per country, and some of those have shut down. So basically we have one in Mali, one in Burkina Faso. Anyway, so it's been very limited. We had to really go through a huge amount of negotiating to get the mill to agree to clean out their mill and do 15 tons of cotton when they do 12 tons a day. So that's a lot of cleaning for just a 2-day process. Although it's not that big of a deal because they do have to clean out their mill anyway. But it was just, it's really, that's been the tricky thing is to, but for people to use organic cotton internationally, just taking the fiber, there is some availability of that. And I know that if we put market pressure on it, I mean, farmers will transition to that if there's a market for it, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just like organic food. People were demanding organic food, so companies started producing organic food. So if we start demanding organic cotton, the same thing.
Right. Heather touched a very, very important theme, which is natural fibers and how you produce, etc. I was lucky enough to spend the 3 last years of my career at Pendleton. You can see my beautiful blanket in the back. It's 150 plus years old company based in Portland.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. And we buy most of the, actually they buy steel wool from local farms in the Northwest. And it is an amazing production right here in the environment that we protect from every single aspect. Oregon, together with Washington, is pushing very hard on the chemicals, etc. And I'm very, very happy to have Hillary and Shireen here, who are pivots for helping the legal aspect to make the change. I think if people have a goodwill to do that, as you say, farmers want to change, wants to do, what is the incentive? So the legal aspect, the financial and the support financially aspect, and the desire to make a change. I think in natural fibers, whatever is cotton, wool is one of the best fibers in the world as well, from the cooler aspect and the warm aspect as well. New Zealand is proving how important is the wool in the world. So the use of natural fibers is so important, and I appreciate your describing it. You described it. Thank you.
Almarina, is Pendleton, are they self-contained? Do they do all the manufacturing in Portland, or is the supply chain, far-flung like a lot of other places?
On the blankets side, the home decor is completely in the US. Actually, it's completely between Portland and Pendleton, the city of Pendleton, which is also in the our factory, or their factory in Portland, is in the other side of the river, which is Washington, but is just like in the neighborhood. But the entire process for the wool and the wool treatment, everything is, and the wool source in the world is basically New Zealand, Uruguay, and United States are the 3 major producers. So we're using the wool, and first of all, we have merino, we have a lot of types of wool that we can put some boundaries and policies to how to take care of the animals, the same way take care of the farms, to emphasize how important is natural fibers.
Yeah.
Almarina, could you put the name of the company and then also the name of your company that, you know, your consulting service in the chat, because we've got some people who are asking for more information about that. Hillary, it does make me wonder, is there any incentive in United States laws to produce more environmentally conscious ways?
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, the U.S. lags behind the EU quite a bit in this respect. I mean, the EU and France in particular have put out a lot more requirements. The U.S. not so much. There's some concepts out there in the House of Representatives, but nothing has become law. I think, you know, one way to sort of get at this is for people to be educated about what's in their clothing.
Absolutely.
So, you know, how do you do that? I mean, obviously companies can do that through a marketing campaign and things like that, but think about the tag that's in all of our clothes, right? And so the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is what regulates both the care tags, content tags. I think folks should be looking to have the FTC update what these tags are required to put on there, so that people will know what the materials are. And if it's too much information to put on that small tag, then maybe it's okay to say, here's a link to the company's website and you can learn more about it there. You know, because that also gets to the care of the items as well, which for me, I think that's a big part of the sustainability. Like, I want to keep my clothes for a long time. I've been the same size for 20 years. You know, I like to take care of my clothes and use them well, but they have to be cared for correctly. And I think there's maybe now starting to be a little more attention to the care of your product, and people have to be educated on that. Can't just default to dry clean only, because companies put that on there because that protects them. Because unlikely the dry cleaner is going to screw it up, more likely the individual is going to, you know, put it on hot and shrink it and then complain to the company. We need to have more information about how do you care for products, and folks were saying before about designers learning early on what are the right kind of products, how to craft their art in a sustainable way from the beginning. Part of that should be the fibers that are used. How do you clean your clothes?
Yeah,
it's all dry cleaning all the time, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I had that experience with one of our clients. She was she needed to get her clothes, her collection cleaned and to the showroom, and she was out of the country, so we were managing it for her. And I took her brand new collection to the dry cleaner to get it clean, and the poor dry cleaner was like, oh my gosh, you have to think of, like, I don't know what these fabrics are. I don't know what's going to happen when I dry clean them. And he said he saw it all the time, that designers are choosing fabrics because they like the fabric, but they're not putting any thought into how to clean the fabric. And so even if someone buys the outfit, they could completely ruin it because they didn't clean it right. So, the other thing that I really find fascinating about the trends is upcycling. And so, Anthony, you've been in this industry for so long. You've worked with so many different
Hold on.
designers.
You don't have to push the so long thing for so.
I'm saying you're an expert,
Oh,
Anthony.
thank you. Okay, never mind.
You're an expert, and we really value all that expertise. I wonder, like, I mean, you do upcycling, Fernanda does upcycling, Runa does upcycling. Can you tell us, like, how consumers are responding to this idea of upcycling, and do you see that consumers are actually wanting it, or if it's if they like the idea so much that they're actually, you know, they will buy from you because it is an upcycled product? Are you seeing any change in consumer behavior?
I am. I do think that you have to tell the story and give them a reason to pay attention, because, as has been said so many times today, the customer doesn't necessarily pay attention. I think that's been said a lot. That's what I heard. So if you give them a reason to participate a way to participate, and you tell a good story, I think you have a good shot of engaging the customer. They particularly like to be surprised by what something was and has become. So, yeah, I think that's a really cool position to be in as a maker or as a brand, or I imagine.
So when you when you got this idea to upcycle trade show banners, and I know, I know we've seen each other as many times at Tex World. Yeah. What is that conversation like when you're going to a company who has, is producing something that's very wasteful? They're probably not thinking about just how much waste they're putting into the environment. But you had this idea. So what was that conversation like in order to form this partnership?
There was no presentation. There was no plan involved in this. We were standing around talking, and you see all of this stuff, this has to go. So I asked, where does it go? And was told, they take it away. So I asked if I could have it. They said, well, what are you going to do with it? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I happened to be, at the time, I was doing a lot of work in a factory that made bags. So I said, let me just call this factory, and if they'll allow me to store the stuff there until we figure out what we can do with it, then we'll do something with it. But maybe we'll make bags for you for the next show. And they thought, wow, that's a great idea. So I think, very similar to the difference between drawing or writing with a pen or a pencil and drawing or writing with a computer. When you draw or write with a computer, there are very few mistakes. At least there should be very few mistakes. When you draw or write with a pen or a pencil, the mistake can be something that sparks something else. It sparks a new idea. Whether you're illustrating and the line is supposed to be this way and you do this, well, okay, maybe the lapel looks like that instead of like this. So those mistakes and tangents and offhand things, I think if you as a person are open to seeing them as opportunities as opposed to mistakes. I don't quickly get the eraser. I looked at it and say, oh yeah, okay, let's go with it. But I guess that can also get you in trouble. I know it has gotten me in trouble a bunch of times. But it's being open to the opportunities, not obstacles, and being open to possibilities, not problems.
I love that.
That I think just needs to be talked about. And right. Once it's out there, people get it and they see value in stuff that other people think has used its value already. Now, whether that's with food becoming compost or whether it's, the office paper becoming egg cartons or banners becoming bags or silk in the street becoming beautiful scarves. This is a mindset that needs to be taught. It's very apparent in impoverished countries because you don't have stuff, but you need stuff. So you creatively make a hose for a 1957 Chevy in Cuba out of a washing machine hose. So it's that kind of the conversation that has to happen in design, in school, and with kids, in in kindergarten, around the dinner table, grandparents need to have the conversation because they don't get it. And you know, so not to be disparaging to grandparents, but I
I
find
want
that
to take a ride on this in your point as well, because one of the key elements in the Loopedworks Life 10 years old company was when he was approached by Southwest Airlines. The Southwest Airlines at the time was changing all the leather seats from the airplanes to more sustainable fabrics. And he started making, and today Southwest and Delta, all leather seats that they are taking from the airplanes right now is going to Loopedworks, and he makes messenger bags, pouch bags, and now he also sells the leather goods in pouches, etc., to the airlines for them to give to the employees, and as well to the first class, for example. You get a first class little pouch recycled from the airplane seats that was 10 years old.
that's brilliant.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Well, Fernanda, you come from the leather industry. I mean, that has to be so full of chemicals, and I can't even imagine how bad it is. How did you come up with the idea to create your company with using upcycled leather products?
So yes, I worked with sourcing for a long time in Asia, especially, and I was going to Asia like a lot, and that was my turning point. I just started to see all those mountains and mountains of waste behind the factories. I saw, you know, small rivers bubbling like green, and I was like struck by that. It was like 10 years ago, and I started like researching about sustainability. All I knew at the time that was like sustainability was a system oriented to last, like in a continuity. But it was like I started like researching and writing about it. And it was mind-blowing to discover like about circular economy and sharing economy. And I was, with that in mind, I started to think that you can't just create a product, just one more product. And that's, and through upcycling, you have like waste reduction, which leads to energy, water, and other savings, like by avoiding creating, like using virgin materials in your production. You know, it helps to save your materials from the landfill by transforming them in new products, right? So reduce like cost manufacturing. So I saw so many ways, even in Brazil, in the brands that I work with. I work for so many tanneries, and you know, all those pieces of leather that you take to a trade show, for example, they're just thrown away. And at the same time, I work with artisanal working. I was connecting artisans with the industry for a long time, you know, so working with different techniques and groups of artisans in different parts of Brazil. So this hem thing, that was something that I learned with my grandmother, like crochet and macrame and all those techniques that I love to do it myself. So it was a combination of, you know, I did trend forecasting a lot as well. So I saw the gap, you know, people were being educated to consume in a more like ethical way, conscious way. So I couldn't see like many brands, sustainable brands. There could be like affordable ones, you know, at the time I knew like Stella McCartney, but it's not so easy to buy. It's not for everyone, right? So I thought that through upcycling, you can reduce costs also, because you're working with discarded material most of the times, or I have like big discounts from, you know, all of my of the companies that I work with, that I buy from. So it was a combination of all my, you know, my work in the past. And yeah, I started, I knew this actually in Brazil. I was trying to find former prisoners, like on the work with them. And I found actually one that helps refugees from Haiti. We have a lot of Haitians in South Brazil specifically. And they welcome them, teach like Portuguese, you know, and help them to find jobs. And I got this group, and this NGO helped me so much to, you know, to gather this group. And so I trained them all with my team, and we find like amazing talents there. 3 of them work with us like until now, and it's been amazing. Also, of course, I was listening to Anthony, and that's so true. You need to like storytelling. You need to communicate that. It's not so easy, right? For me, especially because I came from, I was a consultant for most of my life. So it's hard. You learn every day how to do stuff. And it's something, sometimes it's hard to put it out, you know, to have your story.
To tell the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was actually really blessed for having a distributor. We found a distributor in the beginning, so she helped us to be. We do all the, you know, big trade shows, and we are in 50 stores now in US. We do mostly US market, Japan, sometimes in Puerto Rico and Mexico, but mostly US.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, I love that you have you're working on both sides of environmentalism. You've got the upcycling, but you also have the social impact by using disadvantaged communities to create the product. And Angelique, your business model of Custom Collaborative is, you know, you don't necessarily think of that being a sustainable fashion model, but really how people are treated in production, and the people that we have working, you know, in our manufacturing process. That's an important part of the supply chain, right?
It is very important to establish living wages so that people are paid fairly, and the work environment, especially in this fashion industry, has a history of not being, you know, considering the workers and their conditions that they work in. You know, it's even the air that they breathe in the factories, you know, are things to consider. And also in the teachings, Anthony touched on something too that is really important. I'm a first generation United States, born in the United States, from Caribbean Jamaican parents. And so much of the things that I learned growing up in Jamaica, where you use everything and you're taught how to, you know, live organically. Like, I think back on it now, like everything we ate was organic because we grew it, or you traded it with the person who had the cows or the goats or the fishermen, you know. And so many of the students that come to Custom Collaborative, because they're immigrant back, they already know this naturally. Teaching them to use what they learn from their own countries, of how to crochet, how to repair garments. You know, in Caribbean and other countries around the world, you don't go to the mall. There is no mall, right? So you don't shop all the time. Clothing, you're taught to make clothing well, and so that it can get passed down and changed and altered into new things. And so these are some of the things that we're teaching and bringing back, some of the things that the women who come to us already know from the backgrounds in their culture of how to, you know, alter and reestablish and do things organically. And anytime I'm on a platform to talk about sustainability, I use this opportunity to talk about the fur and leather industry, because we've become this kind of sanitized and it's become taboo to talk about fur and leather. And I remind people that fur, you know, leather is just shaved fur, right? And it is a natural fiber. And stop calling things vegan leather, you know, and faux fur to make it sound more warm and fuzzy, right? That's, you know, no pun intended. But yeah, but first, and I have a background in fur and leather and feathers. So I like using natural fibers, natural fabrics. And
yeah, that's a really interesting way to think of it, because I think a lot of people went toward the faux because of the concern about the animal rights. But then on the other hand, you've got the concern about it not being a natural fiber.
right.
So
and
that's a very important point to think about.
And researching about that, I learned that faux furs will stay in a landfill for 400 years. And I'm like, that cannot be better than using a natural fur that's get passed down for generations. And yes, we do get to have the conversation about the dyeing of it and how to do that better. But I say, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, you know. So our Native Indians have used it, all cultures around the world have used fur and leather, and it is something that can stay around for literally hundreds of years in good use with good care, and learning how to restyle it, recycle it. And we've lost so many jobs in that community. Hundreds of thousands of jobs, from the farmers all the way to the stylists and the tanners and so on. So we need to start rethinking that in the industry as well.
That's fascinating.
And bring back that craft and how to use it and do it.
Yeah, it's not an easy side to be on with that. And I've heard this debate before, and I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that it's very easy for a lot of people to just like assume like this is bad because of the concern about animal welfare. But on the flip side, there's a completely other concern that you have to take in consideration as well.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that conversation is to think about us being responsible. So if we are consuming an animal for food, we should be using every single part of that animal.
Interesting.
So when I create designs using feathers, and people are like, oh my God, you know, I said, did you have a turkey for Thanksgiving? Now the feathers are being used to create something beautiful. So think of it that way. And the same thing with the leather from the cows, or like I said, lambs or goats. We have a responsibility to use them and use them well.
That's beautiful. I love it that you're bringing that up. I want to get, I know Kat, you've got to run, and I also want to get to Sharon about the B Corp. But Kat, with the, you know, you're so involved with the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think good grief, I wish we had the time to actually go through how many SDGs we hit with all the different people on this panel.
A lot of them.
That's what's so beautiful about the SDG goals. There's 17 of them, and every business can find some goal to be a part of, right? So could you give us a rundown of just some of the goals that you think are a very easy entry point for a business?
Well, the easy entry points are obviously labor. You know, you want to make sure that your workers are taken care of. And water. I mean, water is, we've got 0.06% of water that we use on this planet. And we are running out of that desperately. So any way you can use less water, there are absolutely, and I think Runa Ray can concur with me, is there are ways to do no water production for garments. Some of the other things are just about partnerships and collaborations and working with like-minded individuals. That's like the ultimate thing, is to find people who you can align with. That's a biggie right there. And I think one of the things that I taught to my classes, well, first of all, the biggest irony is we're in the 6th mass extinction, and the other 5 extinctions that happened are because of all of the diatoms and the plankton, and everything sank to the bottom of the ocean. The lithosphere heated it, the pressure of the water compressed it, and we are now living off of the fossil fuels that were created by those creatures. And it's so ironic that the 6th mass extinction that we're in is caused by the fossil fuels from the bodies of all the animals that happened before us. So it kind of makes you wonder what people are going to be living off of us when we go through the 6th mass extinction.
Wow, that's something really amazing to think.
I know, it was an aha moment.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I taught my class, and I had it up on my bulletin board, was Pete Seeger's quote, and I think it's absolutely the best. And I think it's really worthy of saying it and absolutely living by it. If it can't be reduced, reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composted, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production.
That's fabulous. That gave me
says it
chills.
all.
I love that.
That says it all.
That's fantastic.
So run that by and look at those. Keep that quote up and keep the 17 goals on your radar at all times. And just because we're going through the Green New Deal and you think that fracking is okay because Biden said so, fracking is whack. It's not good either. So we have to, the politics of fashion says it best, legislation is where it starts. So we've got to put the pressure on our leaders and the companies that we buy from to do the right thing. That's pretty much what our mission should be, and to filter it through those goals. So by 2030, we can actually say we achieved it.
Yes. Yeah. 2030. I know when I saw that the SDG plan was to have all this done by 2030, I'm like, we're really gonna have to put the pedal to the metal.
Time's a ticking, babe. Time is a ticking. That's why I said, what about my future?
Right. Well, Sharon, I want to talk to you. I want you to let everybody understand what a B Corp is, and why that might be a good option for your business if you have a social impact or a sustainable fashion mission.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. So a B corporation or benefit corporation is essentially, it's a proclamation that your business is not only there to make profit, but also do good. So all of these businesses that are in the sustainability, have sustainability practices are obviously doing something good for the environment, for labor. There's obviously, as we heard today, there's such a wide definition of sustainability and what that is in the industry. So depending on where you fall in that industry, you could certainly still get registered and certified as a benefit corporation. So you don't have to be a nonprofit to receive the benefits of having a successful business that runs off of, doing good in the environment and social causes, whatever those sustainability missions are for those businesses. And, and this B Lab certification is where you can get, this is a third party certification, and it's worldwide. Currently, they have 2,500 members and counting. There's major corporations, but of course, there's also the small businesses that can also qualify. And it really helps to put your business in that forefront of the world and showing everyone that, hey, with that seal, you are certified and you do have these practices. And as the panelists have said, education is key. And we are constantly, being told we're being shown the way, and what does it mean to have cotton that's organic versus others. There's so much to learn about sourcing, about labor, about all these things. And by having this certification, it lets your consumer know that you are taking responsibility for your business and how you do business, and that obviously translates into the economies of your business will profit from that. So it only goes to benefit you. But of course, there are processes that you're going to have to set up in order to get registered. It's a process. And you have to have the legal foundation for that business. And you have to make sure that when you're with your contracts, with your sourcers, with your manufacturers, these things are explicitly stated in there. You can't just rely on them to say, no, we're sustainable. You have to get the proof, and it has to be in those contracts that you have with these third parties, so that someone is accountable. And if you need to have an issue with what the practices are, you have a way out. So there's a lot to be said about it, but definitely hearing all these stories and these amazing businesses, the most important thing is to know is that you can do good and still have a successful business. So
do we have anybody in this group that is B Corp certified? So it does feel like we had a really good webinar on it several months ago, and so we'll link that article to when we do this blog. But I mean, it is kind of, it obviously it's if it's something that you think you would like to check into, you should definitely contact Sharon to learn more about it. I also put a link to in the chat so that you can learn a little bit more about it on that website as well. Well, we're running over, so I want to let everybody go today. Thank you so much for all the amazing conversation and sharing your knowledge and insight. And we really appreciate your time. And I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fantastic.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.